Come on now.
Calm down there, calm down.
Any
It's okay.
questions?
It's all right.
And the only lady, well, not the only lady, we got two ladies, but Janice
The
doesn't
only one
keep
that
us in
matters.
line. You know, Teresa at least says something. Janice just keeps quiet, keeps it to herself.
Yvonne kept us in line and agreed.
Yeah, Yvonne would just say,
She would just, you
whoa,
guys are
I
horrible.
wouldn't go there.
It's true.
Yeah, well,
Paula.
now
Paula.
nobody's
It's
gonna
extraordinary,
keep me in
wonderful.
line.
That Paula Abdul.
You're gonna run a mock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They might run you out in
I
Charlotte.
guess we are on the record now. Welcome to Biblical Hebrew,
Oh, sure.
Part
Now you're-
two.
Now you're politically correct.
the Nifal stem weak verbs. I have given you a nice little chart, and we'll probably be referring to that chart throughout this lesson. There wasn't too much on the handouts or overheads for this class because weak verbs basically follow the same or similar diagnostics to the strong Nifal verbs. So we'll touch up on some of the minor points in this chapter, but pretty much it's self-explanatory. You'll have to look at various conjugations throughout the chapter to compare and contrast them so you'll be clear on what is imperfect, what is perfect, what is participle, what are some of the key distinctive points. And on your overheads, they're marked with red letters. These are distinctions of various tenses, I would say. And then gray letters in your handouts are basically weak K's that sometimes drop off or serve as materializaciones. The study of the weak verb diagnostics will build upon your familiarity with strong verb diagnostics. So, to say that, you will need to have memorized the Nifal strong verb diagnostics in the previous chapter before working through this chapter. And I'm talking about diagnostics, not the paradigms. Diagnostics, and I understand you couldn't have memorized because I haven't given you that handout. I actually meant to give it to you last week, and I forgot for some reason. No, the horizontal one for the strong verbs. This one that I gave you today, the second one, is for the weak verbs. So you should be memorizing diagnostics, not paradigms at this point in time. Of course, if you haven't studied your paradigms from the Cal verb, you have to be reviewing those as well. And Darren made an excellent point. If you cannot memorize paradigm by writing it out, actually say it out loud 3 to 5 times, and you will remember the vowel pattern at least. Because if you can read the letters, you will remember, your brain will remember the vowel pattern of the paradigm. So then you'll be able to say it out loud maybe during the quiz, and you'll be able to identify the form. So try various ways of learning the information. The more diverse ways you approach the study material with, the better you learn it and internalize that knowledge so you won't forget. Okay? Nifal verb stem diagnostics. So please do see your handouts or your textbook. Throughout the chapter, they go through various ones. The one that I gave you is just a summary of all of them. So we'll open to chapter 25. And look for the first one. Will be third aleph verbs. The diagnostics for third aleph verbs are identical in the imperfect, imperative, infinitive construct, and infinitive absolute. And if you look at them, you can see that. Okay, the page 296 on your text in your textbooks, it will show you actually how they're similar to one another. The diagnostics of the perfect and the participle, however, exhibit some minor changes. And perfect and the participle are the only two forms that actually maintain that noon prefix. Okay? So when you see noon still intact to a verb and you realize it's a Nifal verb, first of all, then the first thing you should ask yourself, is that perfect or is that a participle? Okay? And then in your notes you'll be able to see some of the other issues in that type of verbs. Third day verbs, page 297. You can look at the diagnostics and paradigms on it. Once again, the majority of the diagnostics for the NIFL strong verb are retained. What else? Except for perfect and participle again. There are some changes. And what are the changes? If you look at the perfect chart, you will see that nif al, let's say, or nif na paradigm is with comments in the weak verbs, but in the strong verb paradigm, it's actually with patha. So there is a distinction of the weak verb from the strong verb. In the verbal pattern or vocal pattern, it will actually have the comments longer ah as opposed to patha, which is slightly shorter ah in the length of it. The diagnostics are the same in every conjugation except for perfect and the participle. We already noted that. First guttural verbs, and you can see also on the chart there. What do we have here? Page 300. The changes that occur in the NIFL forms of first guttural verbal roots, while appearing drastic at first, are explained by the rules that you have already learned. So if you go back to Cal explanation on the first gutturals, it will give you all the rules of what happens to those first gutturals. Okay? Laws of proper tonic vowel reduction, gutturals appearing and disappearing, that's something that you should already know. So it's just going to be same grammatical rules applied to a default, a different stem of the weak verbs. And you can also review paragraph 25.7. It shortly touches on those rules, kind of summarizes everything for you, reviews that. Okay? Next would be first noon. All of the diagnostics for the NIFL strong verb are retained in the NIFL first noon conjugations. So there's not much changes there. And in your notes you'll find out that you should figure out where the noon is retained and where it's assimilated and actually appears as the dagesh forte. Okay, well, for example, if you look at the verb natsal or nitzal, the noon here, the first noon is actually the part of the verbal root. So when you add second noon, you can't have two noons in a row, so it's being assimilated into what? In an example of the imperfect.
Oh, it's already imperfect?
Yeah, it's assimilated into a
Yeah.
dagesh within the noon, right? Or within the tau. Which one is it? Hmm? Well, look in the noon, in the grayish section, it actually shows you that that's dagesh within the noon. It says it's a double noon. And it only makes perfect sense, because if you want to show that some letter is doubled, you would put the dagesh in that letter, right? Which is usually not the case in the column. Sometimes it's, depending on whether it's dagesh lele or dagesh forte, in the majority of instances. First yod verbs, page 301. While the vowel changes in the above diagnostics and paradigms appear drastic at first glance, since we are seeing some whole vowels appearing, or vowels with comments underneath them, or hey with hirek and another vowel with comments and dagesh forte. Most of the NIFL strong verb diagnostics are still evident throughout this one. Yeah,
For the most part.
it seems to be the case, yeah. And I think historically that's been the case as well.
Is there ever defective?
There could be a defective writing explanation for that, or maybe just, you know,
I
a
mean,
rule.
will there ever just be the full one and not the above? Or will there always be a hole above there? You know what I'm saying?
Well, yes, there could be a colon instead of vowel, but I think here it's used to distinguish the verbal system. So in this case, I would suspect that vowel will appear in its full form. Although it's not to say that there are no exceptions in the
Yeah.
biblical text that have a defective writing. Because we don't have the originals, we just have copies.
Well, it says, you were talking about historical, on 25.11, number 3, it says that first yod verbs were originally first vav, and that the original vav reappears in the nifal, so that's exactly what happens.
And you can easily see how people write yod sometimes, they write a longer tail on it. So at some instances it could be viewed as vav. And if you would do something in calligraphic style, say you would try to make the letter look like a picture, almost, you would lengthen, you would distort intentionally letters so that they look prettier. And in fact, if you write with vav, what I've seen a lot of times, it's written, yod, it's written like that, and then this is done with swiggle, and maybe the letter line is somewhere right here. So you can hardly say whether it's a vav or yod. Could be like that. Most of the time it's elevated right here somewhere. So when it's elevated, yeah, you definitely know it's there. But it's not to say that people don't write like that. No. They could distinguish and play with height of the letter, depth of the letter, and so on and so forth. Because when it comes to art and calligraphy, basically there are no rules limiting you. And you shouldn't be preoccupied with people recognizing the letters as much as with the art itself. And a lot of ancient copiers were trying to actually do it in artistic way as well as copying biblical text. Just look at the medieval examples of the scrolls for the English Bible or let's say German Bible. They have pictures which are called illuminations. And maybe text is very narrow. The majority of the thing on the page is a picture, and the text is just a small, narrow column, because it's visually more attractive and easier to read when you have a narrower column. Did you ever ask yourself a question why the newspapers don't write the articles to the full length of the page? Because they're trying to keep your attention. If you can move fast throughout the column and just scan it, you'll statistically be probably reading through the whole newspaper, while if it would be the whole page length, you would just lose interest in the newspaper. So the same thing that we're using for the Bible.
Helps in speed reading.
Huh?
Helps in speed reading too.
Well, I wouldn't say you'll be able to speed
Not
read
the
it
Bible.
because
I meant the
if
like
it
newspaper.
would be written in Gothic or
I meant the newspaper.
Rotunda, huh?
I meant the newspaper.